Hey guys, this is KillerOps speaking, and in today's little dev update we are going to talk about some specifics regarding the sales model and competitors. And there's something new on the table there that is quite interesting, and many of you campaign players will be rejoicing to hear. It is not so much sandbox content, or rather nothing for now, but to you sandbox people, before you tune out, I wanted to give everyone a bit of an update of where we are currently with the version and its release. So I think it is quite reasonable to say that in around 2 weeks we should have it wrapped up, as in all the things in place to make a release version. Could be a few, plus minus a few days. Ha, minus. No, probably not minus, but plus a few days. Depending on how it goes, if we encounter any problems and such. But right now, all the main things are in, and there are a few little features here and there, and then lots of polishing that needs to be done. But so far, it seems all-round playable. It's not crashy or anything, so, well, at least on our machines it isn't. And yeah, so this is looking pretty good. So around 2 weeks plus a few days, potentially. So we're looking early to mid-November. And yes, I'm going to keep you updated on the progress there. And today I'm going to show you more things that were hinted at before. That is the sales model, the new one, the entire rewrite of the sales model, and all that it encompasses, as well as the competitors. So let's get into that. And for that, we are going to spreadsheets. And there we are. By the magic of spreadsheets, we are creating the new sales model. This is very old. Some of you old-timers may remember it from like 5 years ago when I originally designed it. But I think now that it's actually in the game, it is quite worth it to take a look at it and see what it does once again. If you remember it from back then comment down below or upvote the comment that remembers it. Because, yeah, this would be a feat. Anyway. Let's first remind you of what the current sales model does. Because the current one in 4.0, not this one. And that is, we just have a bunch of cars that have a certain desirability score and a certain affordability score. Multiplied together, those two give you the competitiveness score, or the total score of the car. And then these scores are compared to each other. And the top scoring one is, well, either you or the competitor. If you are the top scoring one, then you can see numbers of competitiveness higher than 100. And that just means that 100 is the best competitor and you are above him. And in this rating, that is competitiveness times affordability. So very simple. And depending on that, you gain a certain piece of your market share that is pre-assigned to you as your maximum potential sales. There is no actual market in play. It's just a real nice fakery we have going on at the moment in 4.0 that was put there as a placeholder until the proper sales model, this one we're looking at right now, is taking its place. And that has taken a few more years than expected. Yes, so there was the engine change in the way, the game engine change, that is. So yeah, let's take a look at what this one then does. By the way, in the old system, there are no companies. They're just competitor cars. And that's why we have a big database of 2,200 cars which you're competing against in Sandbox and in the campaign. And in the campaign they're unlocked by year, and in Sandbox they're unlocked by year so that you're competing against the correct ones. So how's this going to change? Well, let's take a look. So in here we do have, for the first time, the concept of, well, companies or brands. And that is essential to the sales model, because we are now looking at how many people we have the market as a whole, and look at how many people in the market are going to look to buy one of those brands. And every person who is trying to buy a car is part of a demographic. So that demographic will look at a car and assign a certain desirability to it. If the company is visible or not depends on your awareness score, and yeah, that's basically it. Here's the awareness score. So let's take a look here. Let's say we have 3 trims in brand 1, and that is the premium, the standard, and the base. And the desirability score here is 65, 58, and 55. Of course, usually you see that if you look in the tooltip, currently also in the 4.0 version, for the demographics, is that sometimes your competitiveness score in a demographic is really low, but your desirability score is sky high, like 4,000 points something. Of course, a commuter budget buyer really fancies your super commuter premium car, but they just can't afford it, so well, that's tough on them, right? So bad luck. So yeah, desirability and affordability are distinctly separate. Of course, many people would like to have that super luxury car, but they just can't afford it, so they don't. With the previous sales model, we only looked ever at individual cars. What is changing now is that instead of looking at individual cars, the buyers are looking at the entire brand lineup and trying to see how much of a match that is to their tastes. And they are not bothered by cars that are just completely outside their taste. It's not making your brand look worse, but rather they are picking out the total strength that is of cars that are catering to them. So what I've lined up here is a decreasing desirability and an increasing affordability. We have a premium model, a standard model, and a base model. These are our 3 trims, and we're just looking at that demographic. Let's say all our other cars in that brand are complete garbage for this demographic, and they don't even see it as a viable option, so they don't even consider it. This is the case for all these brands that are on here. And now let's say 30% can afford the premium one, 60% can afford the standard, and 80% can afford the base model. And now what the new sales model does is, instead of going, well, 0.3 times 65, oh, that doesn't look that good, so we are now slowly becoming Hans-Dieter Krause. No, we would have a competitiveness score which is quite low. While this one would be reasonable high, this one is even higher than that. So this one would score the most, yes, but these ones would be kind of in the toilet. Like 0.3 times 65, yeah, it's not great. This one would be squared, by the way, and that is this value. So it wouldn't be quite in the toilet, it would be 0.3 times that, which, yeah, you see the number here. So this one would be the worst performer by quite a margin, and this one would be the best performer. But now they are instead looking at, oh well, these are all quite good. I'm going to consider them as such that, well, 30% see this one, so they give it that score. That is the fraction down here, how much it contributes to the overall score. Then 30% more, that's the difference between these two values, right? 30% more see this one and say, oh yeah, that is looking quite fancy. That is the highest desirability at that affordability. So we're looking at those, and you see that, okay, 30% see the 58. Good, we add that to the score. And then another 20%, the difference in affordability between these two, see the 55. So now we have, and those 20% that are missing here, well, they don't see anything. So there's nothing viable. There's no viable option for them. So now we are calculating that score, and that gives you the brand sum. That is your total strength for your brand in that instance. How strong is your lineup as seen from the potential buyer? So this is done for each company, and it is that sum that is producing the market share. This is all considering 100% awareness, by the way. So keep that in mind. This is not exactly. This is as if all companies had 100% awareness. So now we have our market share split up by the desirability. So everyone throws their brand sum into a pot, and then we split up the buyers equally according to the weighting of the brand sum. And then an interesting thing happens, and that is that according to their original performance, the original desirability of the cars and affordability, kind of the competitiveness actually, these buyers, this market share is distributed among the cars that are in your lineup. So it is kind of think of a bucket that is filled with buyers, and then we punch hole in it for each trim you have, and the trim competitiveness is the size of the hole. So then you have the buyers raining down and causing your bank account to fill up with sold cars. So what does that mean? Well, you see the car sales by trim down here, and that is, brand 2 has one single car that is really well performing. 85% see this 55 desirability car, and well, that is better than anything brand 1 has. So, but they have quite a shit lineup otherwise. So what happens is that, yeah, lots of people buy this car, but overall, brand 1 actually sells more cars. And that is because they have better options higher up in the lineup. And there are more buyers up there who are more fancying those higher scoring cars. And you see what happens with that concept when you have like a premium company there, where the cars are extremely desirable, but very much not affordable to these buyers. And that means that only the company score, company bubble score for that demographic is quite low. But the quality of the lineup is very high. So they will get buyers that are really fancying their cars, but only a few can come through. And that is because of the affordability cap. One thing to note here is that this list of cars is being cleaned out for those that don't follow this trend. So if you have a car that is scoring lower in desirability and is less affordable, that is straight up thrown out. That is just not considered because it would add 0 score to your brand bubble for that demographic. So let's just change a few parameters here. Let's say this brand has the ultimate little car, but only 50%. Oh wow, okay, that's big. But only 50% can afford it. Well, that is quite a bit higher than brand 4, and that car sells like crazy because those 50% who can afford it are like, why would I buy brand 1 really? And be like, yeah, that's not that great. But on the other hand, there are loads of buyers also seeing the whole lineup here and say like, yeah, I mean, those are really solid cars and everyone is buying this shit, so why should I do too? And there you go. So you still get quite a few sales from those various trims, because this lineup is just not strong. It is very, very narrow, extremely narrow. And this is kind of feeding into that system that we have had in place for so long, which is that you have different tiers of the same demographic. It's a family budget, family, and family premium. And you have that for lots of demographics. So if you have a complete lineup, then you will see in general enhanced sales. Let me just give you a final little example of what this does. And this is, let's say you have 2 cars which are now quite old and they are not that competitive anymore in the current version. They wouldn't be as competitive anymore. They are still holding up somewhat, but interest is down and you've not had a big success yet. Your awareness is quite down and so on. So now you're releasing a new car. And what would happen in the current version if you released a new car? Well, probably your old cars would just not sell anymore and be garbage, and you compact them and you get some scrap money out of it. Now, instead, what is going to happen is that, well, this renewed interest, the bucket is becoming damn full because your lineup all of a sudden is super strong, and then are those few guys who are looking through your lineup seeing like, oh, those old cars, well, I can I can get a bargain deal on that, it looks like. So, yeah, let me go and buy that. So your sales for the old one would probably actually go up and not down. So it is a case of increased visibility through a strong lineup. And now you're saying like, okay, well, you have brands here and stuff, or different companies rather. And where are the different companies in the game then? Well, that's a good question you're asking there, because currently the single database holds only stray cars. It's like from anyone. It's like every car is its own company at the moment, so to say, in 4.0. So we had to change that, and this is also what has caused a little bit of delay, about a week. Yes, implementing that is not that easy. I've designed a new system that was supposed to come in at 5.2, was it? 5.1 or 5.2, where we were fleshing out the competitors. Well, that happens now. Let me switch to it. Alright, this is kind of where designed the system, so it's a bit all over the place, but I'm sure you'll follow along. So, we have now a lot of companies, and these companies, wait a second, where are they? Company profiles, are they here? Yes, they're here, okay. Right, so now you are going to compete against these companies in the game. Oh, that one doesn't have a name. Doesn't matter. So, there are now a few more. I think we now have 2,800 cars you're competing against, and there are 30 companies. And these companies are specializing in certain things. Because what happens is that you are building strength in the various demographics and awareness in the various demographics. And you're also building reputation and company prestige for those demographics, or in general by selling your cars. And that means it's not by demographics. I misspoke there. And that means that you're no longer is it viable to be just a generalist if you are a smallish company. You can go still generalist, but you will miss out on a few things compared to a premium manufacturer, which just has the premium cars, because their company prestige value will be a lot higher, and probably their reputation quite a bit lower because they are not that reliable. But yes, so now you're competing against actual companies with profiles. They will not be that visible just yet. Maybe during the open beta phase we are going to flesh that out a little bit more. Not quite sure about that yet. But this is kind of the breakdown over here to the right that you will be seeing in the game. So Gazmir has quite a healthy car industry with lots of different manufacturers. And then you see it's a little sparse over there in Ahana and Dalua, for instance. Dalua is understandable, but they do, of course, have their luxury and superior luxury manufacturers and the sports ultra and large family cars. And they don't really like anything else. And these competitors will become available as the countries unlock. So let's say you're in Gazmir and now Dalua unlocks. Well, now all of a sudden you have to contend with those super sports cars that they are building. And that makes it quite a bit more interesting with the country unlocks. But how do these companies work? Well, it's pretty simple, the system. So let's go through it. We have the 60 demographics here at the side. And then what each company has is a so-called profile. These are the various profiles, and they have assigned to each demographic a pick score. This is basically indicating what they are focusing on or are likely going to build. So a generalist, you see, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of everything. As you would expect, a small family profile is very much focused on the city and commuter stuff. Still has a little bit of family there. But, of course, what would a small family manufacturer do when he's in Gazmir? Well, that's another good question, because that is all factored in. I have made a little company choice here, and country choice, company width, and budget. So if they're targeting more towards the budget segment or the premium segment. So, we have all the demographics here. This is the family profile I have assigned. and it's going all the way down there. So now if I choose to have a wide company, then you see the normalized pick scores are very far spread out like this. They have a high chance of picking to build a model or trim of kind of a little bit of everything. If we lower the budget choice, so if they are aiming for more budget cars, then you will see that everything is moving down in the categories. Like family budget is now the primary focus of this company, and the commuter budget is a pretty large focus, and the city budget. So that seems to be working. Also, we are currently in Frenia. If we change this over to Gazmere, you will probably see that the city segment is not really that liked in Gazmere. So if we just turn over to Gazmere, boom. Nah, no thank you. No thank you to city cars. This is quite low now in comparison. They might build one, but it's nowhere near as focused. So these, especially not if you lower that. Now this was a very wide family car company with low budget in Gazmere. So you see that they are very adaptable. Now we are in Gazmere with this choice. Now let's just change it to budget choice 3, so make more premium cars, and you really see it switch. Now it's family premium. Where do they have their one? Aha! Convertibles. Oh, they really like the convertible cars there, it seems. And pony cars, because Gazmere, right? Not because the game always tells you it's a pony car. Well, then it was fixed a while ago, but yes. So, I think this is quite understandable in practice. So what I've done is just now define a profile and a country width and budget for each company, and starting country, of course. And then we have a base size. And let me show you here. Let's re-randomize this. Okay, this was... yeah, okay. There we go. So, just re-rolled a few randoms. This is base size 6. This would be the size class 6 company. What does size even mean? Well, it gives the company how many slots for models they have. These companies are all pre-generated still, and that will change later on when the game will hopefully get to a point where it can generate all those live, so that you end up with different competition each time. But yes, so the base size is giving you the model slots, and then it's just some sine waves that are randomizing that. And you see the model slots being active in this graph over the time of the game. And you see this company has a good rise, it's doing well into the 60s, and then coming in the 80s, it's really starting to decline, and it ends up at like a mere 4 models in 2020. So how do these guys generate their cars then? Well, it's quite simple. These are the model slots, and the model slots are filled one by one by the car generation algorithms, and it's looking basically like this. Like car slot number 1. Okay, it's 1940. They start in 1940, just so that you have a market to contend with. Model 1 is starting engineering. Okay, Model 1 is released. So facelift 1 of Model 1 is starting engineering right thereafter. And they have a certain cycling through time and stuff. Here, there's the flow written down all there. But yeah, so they continue facelifting the model until they have 2 facelifts done, so generation 3 of the car. And then in that slot, they are trying to make a new model again. So they're going through all of that. And for each time they build a new model, they're trying to pick a new demographic according to the chances that are given by the pick scores here. If they've already gotten a model that has of that demographic, then the pick score will be reduced for that demographic, so that you don't end up with a company that is like 5 family models at the same time. So that won't happen. For the trims, equally, they are trying to build 3 trims per model. And they are going ahead and looking at what trims are already built, not only within the model, but also outside of the model. at that point of time when they are generating their slot. They are generated in sequence. So first slot 1 all the way from 1940 till 2020, and then slot 2, slot 3, 4, 5, if they are available at that time. So what do you end up with? Well, you end up with a kind of mixed bag of different models that are all somewhat coherent to a certain company profile. Not always fitting within the model, but there's some more tweaking to be done and such. But it looks in general like this system is working quite well. And what is pretty cool is that because these manufacturers are based in a certain country, we can finally make use of the country tastes that already are built into the engines, into the engine generation. If you generate an engine for Gasmere, that will have a lot more capacity and in general be a little bit lower tuned, like larger and lower tuned than a little Revy one from Farina. So there is a lot of taste already built into those companies and kind of nuance. And I think this is a great first step to take us forward to a much more fleshed out set of competitors that eventually also will become a lot more visible, because that is one of the weaknesses of the game as we see it at the moment, that you are really competing with some blob that is unidentifiable. What we want to get to is company so and such has released this car, look at it, these are its stats, it's completely trouncing you, what are you going to do about it? Well, maybe not asking that question, but that is what we want to have in terms of visibility, that things are feeling much more like a living world. And I think this system gets us a lot closer to that goal. And I think this is all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time.